One of the decisions Oscars made that just leaves one scratching your head in oddity or annoyance, because they really have done some oddball things over the years. So I'm going to count down the top strangest and most annoying Academy decisions. Dividing the original score category. Throughout the 50s and 60s, they had a separate music category honoring musicals, but that makes sense since that was during the golden age of the genre. Since then, they pretty much discontinued it. When Disney made its comeback and started winning the original score Oscar for The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, and The Lion King in one big swoop, the music branch did not like how Disney was monopolizing the category despite deserving it for all those wonderful soundtracks. So, in 1995, they elected to split Best Original Score to separate dramatic and musical comedy categories. Pocahontas particularly won that year, but the subsequent Disney films were not successful. Finding they did not need the split anymore, they made it into one big category again. Interesting enough, since Pocahontas, Up has been the only animated film to win Best Original Score. The scores for The Princess and the Frog and Tangled were also ruled ineligible for some reason, but I think it dates back to their annoyance at the Disney musicals winning every year. And that annoyance was an example of pettiness on their part, and that mid-90s category split stands as one of the most unsportsmanlike ideas. Not performing 2012's nominated songs. An annual Oscar tradition has been to perform the nominated original songs. Some of these performances have been fun, while others are dull and perplexing ballads they usually like to award. This is a rare year where the nominees are fun showstoppers filled with energy and humor. Wouldn't it be amazing to see Sergio Mendes on the stage leading a fun percussion of Latin American rhythms, or Brett McKenzie play the piano while the Muppets sing about the conflict of being a Muppet or a man? Well, sorry, neither of them are going to happen, as Oscar producer Brian Grazer decided to nix both of them. Kermit and Miss Piggy will be presenting, but that still does not make up for the lack of a song and a step in Grace's heart. Nominating the same film again. Yes, there was a time when they actually nominated something and then did it again the next year. For instance, Day for Night won Foreign Language Film, and then because of its American release got nominated 3 additional awards the next year. A similar situation happened with Amarcord, The Battle of Algiers, The Umbrellas of Cherbourg, and Women in the Dunes. However, they soon changed the rules. If a film is nominated for Best Foreign Language Film and is released the next year in Los Angeles, it's ineligible. If it does not get a foreign language nomination, it can be nominated the following year. In fact, in the case of City of God, it not getting a nomination the year Brazil submitted it worked to its advantage, since it earned 4 nominations from its American release, including the directing and writing categories. Nominating a re-release. There have been a couple points in the Academy's history where they nominated a film released many years after its initial release. Incidentally, both have to do with Charlie Chaplin. The Gold Rush was reissued in 1942 with pre-recorded music, sound effects, and narration. For some reason, it got 2 nominations that year for reasons I've been unable to find out. Then, 30 years later, Chaplin won an original score Oscar for Limelight, a 20-year-old film that had not gotten a Los Angeles qualifying run until 1972 due to him being exiled from the United States. Following that, the Academy ruled that films older than 2 years old cannot be nominated. Nominating the wrong screenplay. Believe it or not, in 1957, the Academy actually nominated the wrong film in the Best Motion Picture Story category. The voters selected the musical High Society, but due to a case of mistaken identity, the low-budget Bowery Boys comedy, also named High Society, was nominated instead. The latter film's writers realized the Academy had made a mistake and told them to revoke the nomination. It's certainly a very funny gaffe in the Oscars history. Removing a nominee's nomination. The feeling of waking up on a Tuesday morning and finding out you've been nominated for an Oscar must be immense. Now imagine if they took your nomination away. Well, they've actually done that a number of times. At the very first ceremony, Chaplin was nominated in the Best Actor and Best Comedic Director categories for The Circus. Realizing he was so popular he would easily win, they yanked them away. However, they then gave him an honorary award for The Circus. Nino Roda's famous score for The Godfather was originally nominated, but after finding out there was some pre-used music on the soundtrack, they replaced it with Sleuth. What's odd is that 2 years later, The Godfather Part 2 won for Best Original Score. So the sequel had more original music than the first one. However, the most dickish move on the Academy's part was following Young Americans winning for Best Documentary. After they'd given the producers the Oscars, they realized the film did not play in the eligible period of time and took the awards away and gave it to another film. Now, That's not very nice. If the film is ineligible, they should have notified the producers before the nominations were announced. Don't know why it took them until after the ceremony to find out that piece of information. Personally, I think all these folks should have kept the nominations and definitely their Oscars in the case of Young Americans. The extended acting awards presentations. The Academy producers are always talking about making the show shorter, but spending 40 minutes presenting only 4 awards is not the way to do it. In 2009, it was decided that before announcing the winner in the acting categories, 5 individual presenters would appear and tell each nominee how amazing they are. We're well aware that it's all just one big back-tapping ceremony, but you don't need to make it even more obvious. We've seen their performances. They're nominated. Don't tell us how amazing these actors are. Now, maybe it's because I respect sound designers and visual effects artists way more than actors, but it's unnecessary. The following year, they simply did this for the leading categories and then had only one person present the next year. I hope this year they've completely eradicated this atrocious, time-wasting idea. Removing the honorary awards from the ceremony. Another stupid idea made by the Academy a couple years ago was relegating the honorary Oscars to a separate non-televised show in the summer. I find this to be incredibly disrespectful to those artists who deserve that time in the spotlight, and an acceptance speech during the main ceremony is the way to do it. Imagine if they always did that. We would not have had that brilliantly touching moment of Charlie Chaplin accepting his Oscar. Jean-Luc Godard actually refused to go because they placed the presentation in a different ceremony. Then again, this is Godard, so he wouldn't have gone regardless. Nonetheless, I think they should place it back in the main ceremony. Placing actors in the wrong category. The voters have this odd tendency of voting actors in the wrong category, to the point I wonder if they saw the film in question. This is especially the case for young actors. I don't see how anybody can watch True Grit, Ordinary People, and Paper Moon and say that Haley Steinfeld, Timothy Hutton, and Tatum O'Neal are supporting players. This has even happened to older actors. Jamie Foxx has more screen time and is just as pivotal to the storyline in Collateral as Tom Cruise is, and yet he was nominated for supporting actor purely because Ray was his big leading role of the year. Then there's the odd case regarding The Godfather. Marlon Brando won Best Lead Actor while Al Pacino was nominated for Supporting Actor. I think it should have been the other way around, as the film is centered around Michael Corleone and not Vito. Interesting enough, Barry Fitzgerald was actually nominated for Best Actor and Best Supporting Actor for the same role in Going My Way. After that, they changed the rules so that an actor could not be nominated twice for the same role. This is definitely the most criticized Oscar blunder. And my pick for the strangest and most annoying Academy decision is the anti-animation bias. Year in and year out, the Academy has the chance to award the wonderful artists who work in animation, and they turn their noses up at them. No animated film has ever won Best Picture, and that's a shame. In fact, animated films have only ever won for original score, original song, sound editing, and their own category. Nor have they ever been nominated for editing, directing, and art direction. It should not have taken until Beauty and the Beast for an animated film to be nominated for Best Picture, or Toy Story to get one nominated for writing. Let's be honest here, an animated feature is never going to win the top prize. There's too much of a bias against the medium within the Academy. When Beauty and the Beast was nominated, the actors branch were actually very upset because of the fear of giving Best Picture to a film that faces don't appear in. I wish I was joking. Voiceover performances are even ineligible to get acting nominations, so even though the excellent work given by Robin Williams in Aladdin, Ellen DeGeneres in Finding Nemo, and Tom Hanks in Toy Story were completely deserving of awards recognition, they're not allowed to. This rule of appearing on screen even disqualified Andy Serkis for The Lord of the Rings, even though he played Gollum both physically and vocally. Mel Blanc never got an honorary Oscar in his lifetime, and neither did Leon Schlesinger, which still astounds me. Hopefully the board gets some sense knocked into them soon, and they give June Foray a special Oscar. Even a Jean Hersholt Humanitarian Award would be nice. People have been talking about getting rid of the animated feature category because it feels like a secondary prize, but I support the category's existence. Like documentaries and foreign language films, it honors films that the Academy knows will never win Best Picture. It's pretty much a fairy tale at this point, but here's hoping the Best Picture Oscar will one day go to an animated feature.